Hi, this is Scott from Confluent, and I want to tell you about the fully managed connector for MongoDB Atlas. Fully managed meaning Confluent takes care of running it and supporting it for you, so you don't have to worry about any of that. Here's how you get to it. You can visit this URL or navigate to it directly from confluent.io. The question's why, though? Why am I doing this? Well, I think in a previous life, I probably wanted to be a professor or a teacher, but generally, I just like to share knowledge. And this does come up from time to time. I get questions about, can I move X, Y, or Z type of data from Confluent Cloud to Mongo database? And the answer is always yes, yes, you can. And the question is how to actually get it there. So I'm going to show you a bit about how to do this, and I'm going to do it in a no code way. And you can use both platforms have a robust API and command line interface. MongoDB tools and the Confluent CLI. These offer all those kinds of capabilities. If you want to script things or write Python or do whatever, you can even terraform things for CI/CD. But if you've never done this before, sometimes it's nice seeing it through the web browser and getting a sort of hands-on that way. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So what are we going to do exactly? Again, I mentioned no code. So there's not going to be any code here. It's going to be all ClickOps. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to write data into Confluent Cloud. And then we're going to set up a repository for the destination in MongoDB Atlas if you haven't done that before. And then we're going to create a fully managed connector that's going to move data from Confluent Cloud to MongoDB Atlas. It's going to be very simple. And if you want to go a bit further, so in sort of the AI space, we are going to move embeddings from Confluent Cloud to MongoDB Atlas. Because I do get that question from time to time is, can I move embeddings from Confluent Cloud to MongoDB Atlas? Again, the answer is absolutely. So I'm going to show you how to set up an integration with OpenAI, which could be interesting if you've never set up a Flink compute pool and used Flink. And then we're going to create a Flink SQL statement to actually use that integration and create the embeddings. And by embeddings, I mean the type of embeddings that you use in a RAG architecture, retrieval augmented generation, those arrays of numbers that I'm talking about that you generate from a large language model. And then finally, we're going to sync those embeddings, again, using a fully managed connector directly into MongoDB Atlas. So I hope you enjoy it. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to keep my head in the small corner so you can see it's still me and I'm not an AI robot and I'm still talking, but keep it kind of out of the way so you can see what's going on. So first, log into confluent.cloud. I'm not going to show you how to do that, but setting up a free account is super easy. So, once you get there, your environment, or rather your screen is going to look something like this. If you've never done this before, you don't have an environment or a cluster. Kind of like in MongoDB Atlas, you might set up a project and a database and collection. So let's do that right now to assume you haven't done that before. If you have, you can just use an environment and cluster you've already got. So let's click on environments and say add cloud environment. Let's give it a name. We'll call it Scott's env can delete. So super easy. And we will set up just an essentials environment. That's fine. We will choose the basic configuration, which is free. It'd help if I select it. I'm going to run this in AWS. Choose, I'll just leave it, here on the East Coast where I'm at and single availability zone. That's fine. Click continue. And let's create a cluster. I'll just leave it as cluster 0 and just say launch cluster. And ta-da, I have an environment and a cluster in which I can do things. Terrific. You've created an environment and a cluster, unless you had one before, which is fine. So now we are going to do our first connector. So what you're going to do is come to your environment. You can see the breadcrumb trail up here, cluster, and then connectors. I'm actually reusing an existing cluster I had as well. So, but yours may be blank. I have some other connectors in here that you can just ignore, but yours will probably just be an empty screen if this is your first time. What you want to do is click on Add Connector, and then in the search box, type in DataGen, and you can see it right there, and click on it. And for our exercise, let's just use the default here. It's sample mock orders data, and let's just click launch. Don't need any other configuration, at this point for this exercise. Right, you will see that your connector is provisioning. So we will give it momentarily. Oh, okay, it's already running. So now that it's running, the status updated to the green checkbox and you can see it running. So let's click into it. And here we can see metrics that will start to populate. It may take a moment, but feel free to poke around. So you can see like in the settings tab here, there should be a topic name. Yep, sample data orders. So that's where it's decided to put the data that it's generating. So let's go look at that now. If you go to topics, and there it is, sample data orders. You see, I've got some other topics that you can just ignore. Yours might be empty, but this is sample data orders. The data gen connector that we just launched is writing data into this. So let's click into it. Okay, and we can quickly see that we have some data coming into this topic. And if I click on one of them, then the details open up over on the right over here. Very simple stuff, an order time, order ID, order units, and an address. Let's click on data contract real quick. Take a look at that. Notice that says JSON schema. And so you might not have realized it, but now you are using schema registry as well. So every message that comes into this topic is going to be adhering to that schema. And that kind of is nice because that is a pattern we see a lot of where in a no schema environment downstream, the data contracts are enforced in Confluent Cloud so that when that data product does go downstream, it's a much better data product. So let's navigate over here really quickly to Schema Registry, and you can take a look at your data contracts as well here. So this is all stuff that is pretty straightforward if you just want to dig around here and play around with it. But congratulations, you are now writing data into a Confluent Cloud Kafka topic. So now that we've got data writing in the Confluent Cloud, let's go create a similar destination in MongoDB Atlas so that we can land this data from Confluent Cloud into Atlas. And if you haven't done this before, again, not going to walk you through signing up for a free account on MongoDB, but it's super easy and free, so we'll skip that part. But I will show you how to create a project, get a cluster going in a database in case you haven't done that before. So first things first, when you land in here, I've deleted all my projects so you can actually see what it looks like empty. So we'll go ahead and click on this button here, New Project. And we'll just give it a name. Any old name is fine. My FMC demo. We will click next. And we will add myself as the project owner. And since I'm logged in, that's the only one that I need to worry about is myself at this point. Let's click create project and voila. Okay, now that we've got our project created, let's create a cluster. So I'm going to click this button here, create cluster. Let's choose the free version, the M0, that is perfectly fine. And I'm going to give it any kind of name will work. I'm going to call mine cluster CFLT0. Name it whatever you want. I'll choose AWS and East 1. And that is important to call out here for the fully managed connector and the sync way to work. Your Confluent Cloud Kafka cluster needs to be in the same region as your MongoDB Atlas region. So just make sure they match, meaning if you set this up to run in Oregon US West 2, then that should match here as well. Let's click on here, create deployment. That's fine. Let me go ahead and set a password that I want for that I previously created. So create database user. That's done. And then you can go through these screens and look at how to connect to your cluster, which that'll be important later. So we'll close that for now. One thing I do want to mention, a pro tip here is let's take a look at network access. Okay, by default, it includes my current IP address, but for this exercise, I want to add in the ability to get to this from anywhere. So for now, I'm going to enter in any allowable anywhere on the internet, just for this exercise. And let's click confirm. I love the option that they can make it temporary and but you would never do this in production, but for this purpose, it's fine. So let's click confirm, and that will circle until it's ready to go. Excellent. Now let's go back into our cluster here, and you can see here it is, the cluster we created a second ago, and it has no collections. So sorry, correction. It does have a collection. I forgot that Mongo by default provisions the sample Netflix data set. And this is actually really cool because this has, I believe it has embeddings in it and other data. So anyway, feel free to play around with that. Don't know what that was about. Don't really care, but oh, okay. It's currently working on it. So give it a second. Great. I should fix that. So let me go back into my cluster, click on collections. Fine, got my data set back. I want to create a different database though, just for our purposes here, again, to show you how this works. So let's create a new database. Okay, I do want to call out the first time you do this additional preferences checkbox, it may take a minute to load and it may just have this checkbox select option, which doesn't do you any good because you know you need to select something, but there's nothing underneath it. Time series and clustered index are both missing. So what I usually do is wait a minute, give Mongo a little time, and we just created this clustering database, I mean clustering project. So just FYI, if you do come across it and you're like, why won't it let me continue? Just you need to give it a minute and come back into it. So let's create my test and we will enter a collection name. We will just call this one sample data orders and clustered index is fine. And we'll just leave that as an optional. We'll leave that blank and click create. Perfect. Now I have a home in Mongo database to store this data coming from Confluent Cloud. So let's go look now at setting up the fully managed connector to get that data that we set up in Confluent Cloud into MongoDB Atlas. So let me hop back over to Confluent Cloud, and we're going to go back to the same place, connectors. And this time we're going to type MongoDB Atlas sync. Sorry, I need to click add connector first. That would help. MongoDB Atlas sync. And there it is. So let's click on the Get Started button. And let's set up the connector as follows. First, I'm going to check the box for sample data orders because that's the data we want to move. We will click Continue. Okay, now in here, what we want to think about doing here is you can use an existing API key if you've already set one up and you want to use that instead. In this case, I'm going to just show you an easy way to do it using a service account, and I'm going to create a new one and give it a name, my MDB FMC service account. Scott can delete this. Okay, so now, oh, and then I want to add all the required ACLs. So this gives you an easy way to create a service account that we can use for this exercise. And then when I delete the connector, and this will take care of the destruction of that, and I don't have to go through the process of creating my own API key, that kind of thing. So you can do whatever you want, but this will make it easy for you. Great, let's fill in our details. How do we get the connection host? It's going to look something like this. This isn't exactly the right connection host for me even. So let's go figure out what that is. I believe you come into clusters and can click on connect next to the name and just click any of these options like drivers. And I believe it'll tell you, yep, sure does. So like I can steal that. And this is basically um, the string that you'll put inside of the box here. So let me put that in there. And that should just about do it. And one of the great things about this, by the way, is when you click continue here, it's going to do a quick test for you, see if it's valid or not. So see if you've done that right. Put in the user and password that I set up previously when I set up the database in Mongo. You may remember doing that. Database name, can't quite remember. What did we call it? Let me go look. It was my test FMC. All right. And the collection name was, oh yeah, sample data orders. So let me copy that. Now we'll put that in there. Let's click continue. I've probably done something wrong, but if not, I mean, if I have fat fingered something, it won't work. Oh, great. Okay, it did work. So I guess I did get it right. That's rare. Okay. All right, if you remember JSON schema registry, it showed us the schema and it was the JSON schema registry entry. I'm going to leave it just as JSON just to deliberately cause an error. If you want to skip that and just click JSON SR, which will work, then feel free. But I'm just going to show you how this error works just so you can get an idea of how to cause an error and what the dead letter queue looks like and then how to fix that as well. So let me click continue. Great, I'll leave task as one, click continue. And I'm just going to leave this name. I don't know. Maybe I'll just change it, make it look better. Okay. And then let me click continue. And it should show as provisioning and running very shortly. Let me click X on that so I can see it. And there it is. It's being provisioned. So let's give it a moment. Okay, the connector is running. So let's click into it and check it out. Now, when you first go into it, it's going to take a moment for the metrics to start to appear. So we'll just give it a minute. Sometimes I go out of this screen and back to it to just kind of refresh it or just refresh the screen, but it'll actually refresh for you automatically. Okay, awesome. So really quickly, you can see, remember, I caused this error on purpose. I just wanted to show you how this works. You can see messages showing up in the dead letter queue. So let's click into that. And this is a topic that was created automatically by the connector. And sure enough, I can see my data is rolling through the dead letter queue. In fact, I'll go to the topics and see that it's actually a topic that is shown up as well. So let's go back into our connector and let's change that so that we can get this to work properly. So let me pause it. Go to settings. And let's scroll down to the configuration here on the input Kafka record value format. Let's choose JSON schema registry and click Save Changes. Click Apply down at the bottom right. Okay, let's resume our connector. So if I want to stay here and watch the metrics increase, we can, but I'm just going to go ahead and jump over to Mongo database and see if the data is actually moving into MongoDB Atlas. So if I click refresh here, it should start to show data. And if it doesn't, then I've done something wrong. So clicking refresh now. And voila, look at that. I have my test FMC collection with my database with my collection of sample data orders. And sure enough, I have the orders data flowing successfully into MongoDB Atlas. So again, just to kind of recap, I've got data flowing from Confluent Cloud into MongoDB Atlas, completely ClickOps, no special code. I didn't have to program anything, all just using the fully managed connector available in Confluent Cloud. So hope you enjoyed it, and we'll move on to some bonus sections if you want to stick around and do a little bit more sort of AI-oriented workload. First things first, let's create that connection. So if you want to, go to your environment and click on integrations, and then click on connections. And notice I don't have anything here, so let's click on the plus add connection button. I'm going to work with OpenAI, but you can do other models if you want. And let's put in our OpenAI information. Let me put in my endpoint. Pretty sure I typed that correctly. https api.openai.com/v1/embeddings. Perfect. Let me grab my OpenAI API key. Okay, I will paste that in there. Click continue. I'm just going to call it OpenAI-connection. I will choose to run it AWS, and I will keep it in the same region that I run everything else. US East 1. Then I will say create connection, and it has been successfully created. I love this stuff because I'm such a dork, but that's okay. If you're interested to explore along with me, there's 3 more steps in this next phase of working a little bit more in the AI domain. So anyway, if you haven't yet created a Flink compute pool, this is your chance. If you go to your environment and click on Flink, you'll have this option here to create a compute pool. So if you click on that button, I'm just going to create it in the same region that I create everything, AWS US East 1, click continue, leave it as that name is fine, and click create. And voila, you have now created your first Flink compute pool. And open the SQL workspace. And you can see here, I've got a query here that says create a model. I give it a name. And I say the input's going to be a string, and I'm expecting an array of numbers back. And this is going to be using the OpenAI connection that I just created. So let's run this statement. And terrific, that will create the model. You can actually go over here on the left here and see too where it's been created. So I can actually see it in my list here. Great. Let's also run a query to see this in action. So I'm going to click on the plus symbol here to bring up a new window. And let's run this. It's selecting star from sample data orders, and it's going to pass into my model that I just created a concatenation of a number of data elements from that data. In reality, you're going to have something way more interesting than what I'm passing in here. This really isn't that useful, but sample data set, I'm just trying to get you used to it. But in theory, you would probably be passing in much more interesting information, such as the brand of the shoe, different information like that. So let's click run. Okay, excellent. I can start to see some data coming in, and you can see that the select star is bringing in these particular columns, but the vector is also being returned here. So this is kind of what I'm looking for. This should look very familiar to you in a RAG environment. I'm going to click stop for now. I don't really need that running in real time like that, but just wanted to show you kind of how that works. Let's do something else that's interesting. Let's save this data into a new table, into a new topic, if you will. So I'm going to click on the plus sign, and I'm going to come down here and say create table. I'm going to do sample data orders with embeddings. Just to, again, we're kind of just showing you brute force here how this works, but this is kind of nice, gives you an idea. So let me run this, and this is creating a new Flink table with a topic underneath. All right, let's take this a step further now. And one last little thing, let's save this data into this new topic that we've created, sample data orders with embeddings. How that's going to look like should look very similar is we are inserting into that new topic the data that we're pulling from sample data orders, and we're just doing that just so that we can see that alongside of it, and also the resulting vector. So let's click run. And once that's done, we will go check out that topic and see if data is being written to it. And if I haven't fat fingered anything, then it should be working. Awesome. Let's go check out that topic now. Okay, here I'm at my topic list. I'm going to click on this topic and see if there is any data being successfully written into it. And sure enough, it is. Check it out. We have the similar data. And again, we just did this, I just did this so that you could see the same data that's being passed to the large language model is exactly the same data we're saving here. So, and it just also comes accompanied with the vector data. Now that we have this data, let's go back to MongoDB and create a new home for this data. And we'll do the same thing. We will show you how to set up and do a new fully managed connector to write this data back to Mongo database. If you want to turn off the video and do it on your own and just make sure you know how to do it, it's not bad exercise, but let's go do that now. So hop back over to Mongo database, and I'm going to click the plus sign right here and say create a new collection, and I'm going to call it sample data orders with embeddings. Clustered index is fine. Click create. Okay, I have an empty collection. So now it's just waiting on data to appear. Let's go create a brand new fully managed connector that writes data to this new location. And we're just going to do this just for good exercise. We're going to click continue. I'm going to use the same service account I created before. Add all the required ACLs, click continue, and fill this back in again. Okay, that took me a second to remember all the information, but I've got it all put in, just didn't want to bore you with that. Let's click continue, see if I typed it in right. I did, okay. Let's click continue. One task is fine. Click continue, and final continue, I believe. And it is provisioning, so we will give that a moment to sink in. Terrific. Let's go look at Mongo database. And if I click refresh here, okay, well, that didn't work. I don't have any data coming in, so let's see what I have done wrong. Ah, messages in the DLQ. Huh. Topics, sample data order with embeddings. Oh, I used the wrong type, Avro. Let's go fix that. See, that is a good reminder to yourself to pay attention to those small details. All right, let's go in here. Let's pause this guy and update its settings. Where is it? Okay, let's click edit. I'm going to change that to Avro. Click save. Click apply. Terrific. Now let's resume it. Wait for it to start up. Okay, now let's go back and let's click refresh. See if, and there's the data. So this should look very familiar. It's the same location, city, state, zip, and the item ID itself. And here's the array of information. So you can see that it is flowing in successfully with our new fully managed connector. Of course, I ran into that issue there with the data types, but easy enough to identify and fix. So no code here. This is all just ClickOps. So hope you found it interesting. And this is kind of nice because now I can do further AI work down in MongoDB as I need, or I can send this data to other systems as well. So hope you found it interesting and super useful to use the fully managed connector to get the job done. One thing I'd like to do too, real quick to show you is how easy it is to delete your environment, by the way. There's a daisy chain of child deletions that happen. So I usually come up here to my environment, and I believe it's under more. Oh, yes, I can delete my entire environment. And just like that, my environment is gone. So I just want to remind you that in case, at the end of this, you want to clean up and take care of things so that you're not running any unnecessary bandwidth or throughput or running up any incidental charges.